As in civilian life, the bakehouse works through the night. Here they produce over 500 loaves per day in 4 bakings and 2,000 buns and pastries. The buns are receiving the final happy polish.
Whilst we race to our rendezvous, I'll try to explain a task force. Well, what is a task force? You've heard it called a fire brigade. Well, that's only partly true. Peace force? Again, partly true. Dennis Healy, the defence minister, once said, our role is to provide support to independent governments. That's true. Independent governments mean free speech. Freedom to decide and live one's own life. Responsibility to society in a responsible society. Well, basically, that's a belief in people. Now, people must communicate with people, exchange thoughts, trade. They must be free to do this without threat or fear. They operate alone, the supply line stretched, they may have to be convoyed. Victorious, with his crew of 1,400 seamen and technicians, plus 4 squadrons, another 400, nearly 1,800 men, consumes even more food than Bulwark, needs more fuel. In fact, nearly twice as much.
Bulwark, with a full complement of Marine commandos, will also have nearly 1,800 to feed. They will eat 6,400 pounds of meat per week. Enough meat for an average family of 4 for 8 years. 1,100 pounds of sausages, 19,510 pounds of potatoes, 10,000 eggs, 2,200 pounds of fresh fruit, 1,200 cartons of ice cream, and so on. That's only a week's supply. Now add all the military stores and supplies to keep the shore forces going. Add the immense capital investment. Victorious, with her many refits, is worth around £40 million. Her aircraft, 25 million. Bulwark is worth about £30 million. Her aircraft, around £2 million. Here's the Gannet giving Bulwark air cover during the RAS. Add the other ships comprising a task force, and there is a capital investment of over £250 million. Pay must compare with civilian pay. A petty officer can make over £25 a week. Most of that can be saved. The married men are buying their own houses through mortgage schemes arranged by the Navy.
Like a circus act, each trick becomes more difficult. Here are 3 ships locked together: a carrier, a frigate, and a tanker.
Bulwark's ops room, the ship's nerve centre. Ops Officer Lieutenant Commander Ninian Auld is for the Captain, Royal Marines.
All burn up. With your beaches, Queen Green, Queen Red, the 2 landing sites, Blue 1 and Blue 3.
Yes.
The prominent features close to them, Eagle's Claw and Vulture's Beak. The road running south, and the river, of course, or rivers, which we shan't use in the early stages, but we may be using them later on.
Yes.
Not very much information about the enemy as yet. Weak battalion in the area. We hope to know rather more from your SBS boys in the submarine.
This is the Chief Petty Officer's bar.
It's all right for you. You've just bought your iPad, haven't you, to Hong Kong?
Yeah, well, it's just beyond it, because, isn't it? To start with, and how much have you got? Well, it's got on this holiday, you know. So how much does that work out a day in the hotel? Well, we got a very good hotel for about $35 a day, which is near enough. Just over £2 a day. That was without food, you know. Oh, you had to pay for this extra, huh? Oh, yeah. Well, you do, yeah.
Instead of doing an 18-month commission, if we cut it down to a year, do you think that'd be better?
Definitely. I prefer a year commission, say, with a holiday for the wife to join you about halfway through.
Yes.
And give her a break. She has a responsibility at home, wouldn't she?
Yes, but who do you want to pay for this?
The Navy, of course.
The Navy has given much thought to finding the complete answer. Perhaps like most emotional problems, the answer will always be as complex as the problem. Shorter sea time, longer leave periods with family transported, free travel, air crew mid-tour leave, complete ships companies interchanged by RAF Transport Command, all have been tried. A task force replaces land bases we're losing. A permanent land base accommodates wives and families. Stoker Anderson.
How much was that, Joe? $5. It's enough, man.
You were seen off. I remember a card seller on Tower Hill flogging 25-year-old picture postcards to continental sightseers at £0.50 a time. That's how we know local peoples. As traders, stall holders and barkeepers who will see us off if we don't see them off.
This is the captain speaking. As you all know well, we have been at sea for just on a month with 4-2 Commando embarked. From time to time I have spoken to you and given you the state of play so far as I know it. But first the background. You'll remember that for some time trouble has been expected in this area. There has been an unhappy period of provocation, and we have been on the receiving end of all sorts of threats. Incursions have been made every so often, but last night news came through that landings in greater numbers have taken place. We are therefore closing the area with a view to carrying out an assault and putting in the Marines to bat at long last. They'll be up against ruthless, well-armed forces, and in addition, the locals are being terrorized and pillaged and have asked for help, so we shall have to do all we can to land supplies and medical teams. Now, the way that this is going to be tackled is from two separate areas. The northern one will be the concern of the Victorious, who will be putting in her strikes there, and so she'll have little effort to spare to support us. In the south, we shall be landing the Marines by air and sea. And incidentally, this will be into an area of good thick jungle, which will make it tricky for both our helicopters and the Marines embarked in them. That is all the news for now, but I shall keep you informed as we go along. Action stations will be sounded off before dawn.
Marines wait in the hangar for the final call to the flight deck. Scott, our pilot, has received his final briefing. Soon he will be flying into jungle area with trees 200 feet high, finding small areas to drop his Marines. Corporal Gibson and his stick.
Forward. Stand up. Quick. Off.
Each Marine has a check card. This is handed in before he embarks. Our old friend the schoolmaster collects these cards and helps marshal the Marines on the flight deck. Each section of Marines is called a stick. A stick is 8 to 10 men under a corporal. Gibson's stick embarks. A last look at Mum Bulwark. So they stream out, up from the bowels of the ship and then down into the bowels of the jungle. Why did they do it? What makes them choose this way to live against working in an office, factory, or as commercial travellers, or even professional footballers? Simplify the issues. Someone is being hurt. They're going to stop it. Oh, much too simple. It's not just that. These men are not moralists or missionaries. Talk to them of moralities, hand them Bibles and patriotic marching songs, and they'll look at you with some amusement. Of course, helicopter flying is fun. Landing and taking off from a sliding flight deck. Constant low flying. It calls for skill and so many permutations of any one given situation. Nearly 4 weeks ago, Bulwark embarked Marine Commandos 4-0 and 4-2 under Colonels Ian Gourlay and John Tamplin, together with all transport and arms. 4-0 and 4-2 Royal Marine Commandos have already served with distinction in the jungles of Borneo, Sarawak and the deserts of the Middle East. Lieutenant Ray Ingram, Royal Marines, serves in Bulwark and is part of a small permanent liaison party. Seasoned, trained men, individualists combined into a fused, integrated group. Bulwark is a commando ship of some 22,000 tons. First commissioned October 1954 as a light fleet strike carrier, she was converted to the commando role January 1960. She has spent most of her working life east of Suez. Just over 4 weeks ago, we slipped to sea to join the remainder of the task force. It was a grey, humid, heavy, hot day. There were no fanfares, no pomp. It was a job. Over 700 feet long, she was the first ship to become a commando carrier. She has 845 Squadron Wessex helicopters. Under thy wings will I trust. 48 hours later, we joined this vast task force under the command of Rear Admiral Hill Norton. It includes strike carriers Victorious and Eagle, Australian carrier Melbourne, commando carrier Bulwark, guided missile destroyers Kent and London, destroyers Barroso, Carrisford, Corona, Caesar, Lincoln, Derwent, Royal New Zealand ship Otago. That's Victorious. That's Kent, the guided missile destroyer. Why were we here? Intelligence had given detailed and accurate reports of an aggressive state's massive build-up of troops and supplies aimed at a friend. Yet we have had to wait until called. So here we are in a strategic area steaming in an apparently aimless pattern. Lieutenant Commander Sean MacPhail, second in command flying, responsible for all takeoffs, landings, etc. Major Tony Eyre, Royal Marines, in command of Bulwark's Marine Liaison Party. Successful embarkation of troops into helicopters will be his special responsibility. Waiting, training, waiting. Waiting for the call for urgent aid. The diplomats waited, the politicians waited, we waited in a strategic area and hoped. Like fire engines waiting at an airfield for a crippled aircraft to land, we hope but are ready. Today we have been told we have hoped in vain.
This is your special correspondent with HMS Victorious. We're now racing at over 30 knots to the rendezvous. On the right is the mirror landing gear. This guides the pilot onto the flight deck. This is Buccaneer, the Navy's most modern strike aircraft. The arrestor wire can stop you from 140 miles per hour in less than 200 feet. A stop like that gives you the nasty feeling your guts have been blown to the sea behind you. Sea Vixen, a developed and proven aircraft. Controlling aircraft onto this puckishly unstable platform, one every 20 seconds, demands a detailed knowledge of aircraft and crews. Every landing needs accurate, split-second timing. I once heard a flight deck likened to a friendly dog. The aircraft are small kittens jumping and landing on its back, with the dog not quite sure whether to shake them off or not. This, of course, is Gannet, a mature lady, now mainly used for anti-submarine patrol. Strike carriers are screaming, noisy brute. Jets belching the challenge of exultant power with eardrum bursting ferocity. Lip bells clanging, the thump of heavy aircraft landing, the heat, the stench of avgas.
Most TV, current affairs, documentary and feature programs are or could be on 16mm and so be seen by the Navy. They never are. Why? No one has given me a good reason. Bulwark has a highly qualified medical staff and good facilities. Ironic that the smoothest way for getting the wounded below is on the bomb lift. The Sergeant Commander has a fine group working with him, a well-equipped theatre.
Wherever the government of the day may send it. Is there a justification for this immense effort, this police work, this vast expense? Let's again quote Dennis Healy. First of all, we've got direct obligations to defend and to keep order in countries which are still under British rule, like Hong Kong in the Far East, Swaziland in Southern Africa. And secondly, we've treaty obligations to help countries either in the Commonwealth, like Malaysia, or outside it, like Kuwait, which feel themselves threatened by foreign enemies. You know, we just can't welch on these obligations. But there's a third and more general reason why we are east of Suez today. Very often, just by having troops around, we can help to prevent a war breaking out, or stop it from spreading when it does break out. That's in fact what we did in East Africa 2 years ago. We hadn't been able to send troops in when we were asked by the independent governments. The whole of East Africa might have been plunged into chaos like the Congo in fact was. Don't forget, we walk out of a country, there are other countries around that may walk in. In fact, if we're wanted in a country and we walk out, we may leave behind us nothing but violence and anarchy. Well, there's the justification. The task force, in the distinct form you've seen it, can work until the mid-70s. From then on, the heart of this particular concept, the carriers, will be the end of their operational careers. The Defence Review plans a very different Navy and but suggests a new concept for task force work. The peoples who today need the presence and protection of a task force, if not its active intervention, might still need support after the 1970s. We can't assume that within 10 years they will have found stability, democratic governments and administrations suitable to their distinct needs and cultures and not mere copies of the West. The Western world has been a wary peace.